This video is about constructing parallel lines and applying properties of angle pairs to solve Crook problems. So in number one, we want to find the measure of each angle in the diagram. So right now we have two parallel lines with a triangle inside. Now this triangle has a tick mark, one on each leg, which means that those legs are congruent, so it's an isosceles triangle. And in an isosceles triangle, if your legs are congruent, then your base angles are congruent. So both of those angles are 51 degrees. So I can find the angles next to them by subtracting my measure from 180. So 180 minus 51 gets me a measure of 129 in both parts. Now, to find the angle at the top of the triangle, I have parallel lines, and if I use the leg as a transversal, 51 and this angle right here are alternate interior angles, which means this is also 51 degrees, and that also happens on the other side. So the last angle I have to find then is the inside of my triangle. And I can find that by subtracting the two angles I know. So 180 minus 51 minus 51 means it's really 180 minus 102. And 180 minus 102 gets us 78 degrees. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to have them in terms of x. So again, I have my isosceles triangle. So my base angles are congruent, which makes them both x. So on the outside, because I'm forming a straight line here, I can subtract that from 180. So I have 180 minus x and 180 minus x. Then I can use my x's that are alternate interior angles at the top, because again, I have parallel lines and a transversal. So those are alternate interior, which means this is x, and the same holds true on the other side. So to get my last angle then, if they're forming a straight line together, they would be equal to 180 minus the two angles they already have, so 180 minus 2x. Now let's look at a Crook problem. So a Crook problem is made up of multiple angles, some of which are alternate interior angles, which are congruent, and same side interior angles, which are supplementary. So in order to do a Crook problem, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line parallel to the top and the bottom through the crook, or the intersection point. Then we're going to work from the top down until we get to that line where x is, and then we're going to work from the bottom up until where the x is, and then add those values together to get x. So in number 3, the first thing I want to do in order to solve for x is I want to draw a parallel line through my intersection where x is. Now I want to look at the relationship. So I'm just going to ignore the bottom right now. So if I were to just pretend, I'm going to white it out for now and pretend it's not there. So I want to work and figure out what the angle is right here. Well, the relationship, if this is a parallel line between 112 and that burgundy dot, is that they are all same side interior. So I can subtract from 180 to get the measure of that angle. So when I subtract 180 minus 112, I get 68 degrees. Then I'm going to do the same thing from the bottom, where I ignore the top. Again, I have parallel lines, so 73 and this navy dot are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are congruent, which means that that angle is 73. So then to solve for x, I'm going to add those two angles together. So 68 plus 73 is 141 degrees. So x would be equal to 141. In number 4, it's a little bit different because when I draw in my parallel line, I notice at the crook, I have an angle measure, not a variable. So right now, all I know is that this part, where x is an alternate interior angle, which makes this also x. But in order to find x, I need to know what the angle is on the bottom of my problem. So I'm going to use, looking at the 138, I know that 138 and below my new parallel line are same side interior. So I can subtract 180 minus 138, and I get 42 degrees. So in order to solve for x, I know that the whole angle is 84, and that's equal to x plus 42. So when I subtract 42 from both sides, I get x is 42 as well. Number 5. So in number 5, I'm going to draw a parallel line going through my crook. And when I look at the top, I don't have an angle in one of my two spots for alternate interior, same side interior, but I have that 123. So I know that 123 makes a vertical angle to give me that angle inside is also 123. So to find x, then I know 123 and above that line are same side interior, so I can subtract and get 57 degrees. Then working from the bottom up, I know that this is 125, so that's also alternate interior. So 180 minus 125 gets us 55. So to solve for x, I'm just going to add those together, 57 plus 55. And when I add those together, I get 112 degrees. Now, number 6, when I start working on this problem, I'm going to draw my parallel line through my crook. And I notice that 41 is on the outside instead of the inside, but 41 is a vertical angle with right here. So they're both 41 degrees. So to put a number above my new parallel line I drew in, I know that they're alternate interior, so it's 41. Then working from the bottom up, 144 and the angle I want are same side interior, so I'm going to subtract the angle I know from 180, and I get 36 degrees. So to solve for x in this case, I would add the two angles I know together, 41 plus 36, and set them equal to 3x plus 11. So 41 plus 36 is 77 equals 3x plus 11. I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. 66 equals 3x. And when I divide by 3 on both sides, I get x is 22.